are about 3.5 inches thick. So that flash is just going to bounce off of your viewport back onto your camera. You're going to get a great picture of your own flash, but not the cool fish and coral. Now, since we've lost the ability to use our cell phones, we have also lost the ability to use our VHF radio. So for us to communicate with our crew back up on the surface, we actually have to use a special technology. It's called a hydrophone, what we call an underwater telephone. It's basically the same technology scientists listen in to dolphins and whales. So we're going to listen in to our pilot. Our pilot today is Danny Bonnell. She's going to be calling into the surface to make that communications check. So let's listen.
Hey everybody, welcome aboard the Atlantis number 10. We're going to get a quick communication check with our surface crews. We put the final touches on the ballots to make our way into the reef. Let's listen and see if they're ready for us. Here we go. Surface Atlantis 10 communication check. Avion clear 12, that's secure, positive buoyancy chief. Talk to you later. Thank you, bye now.
Alright, so with that communications check, we are now free to roam our 25-acre dive site out here. So as you can see, we have come up on our coral reef system here. Some beautiful views of this coral. Now, before we start talking about all that stuff that we're seeing, I'm going to turn your attention to the front of the submarine. I'm waving at one side. You guys over here are on the port side of the submarine. We've got a digital depth gauge right up here that keeps track of how low we are at all times. So if this is port, that makes this starboard. So you guys also have a digital depth gauge there in the back. Now, do remember what side of the submarine you are on. I will be pointing out different things, port and starboard.
Oh damn, that thing's gonna eat me alive.
Now we have come up on our coral reef here. Dakota actually boasts one of the healthiest reef systems in the world. So most of this coral that we're looking at, very alive, very healthy. One of the first things you might notice though about our coral is the color. You might have seen those Blue Planet documentaries or scuba divers pictures, right? That coral is really bright and colorful. Well, so is ours. But the deeper we go in the ocean, the less ability we have to see colors. Colors actually get absorbed by the water column. In fact, at 20 feet, the color red goes away entirely. If any of you guys had any red clothing on up at the surface, take a look at your red clothes now. They've probably changed to purple or maybe even black. So a really good example of how colors actually change the deeper we go in the ocean. Yeah, so this coral is quite colorful. If you were to take it up to the surface, a lot of reds, oranges, yellows, greens. Unfortunately, we cannot see that color. Now we've got big schools of fish on both sides of the submarine here. Cigar-shaped fish. They're what we call llama. They're a type of juveniles.
Oh, cool.
Pretty aptly named. They have little goatees that come off of their chins. What we call barbels. Kind of like a dog's whiskers and insect antennae. They use those barbels. They dig around in the coral and in the sand, search for little organisms to munch on. Now these guys are juveniles. And the way we can tell that is they don't have a black spot on the side of their body yet. So once they grow into adulthood, they actually break off into smaller groups, well, 2 to 3 fish. But in these juvenile states, they like to school, they like to stick together. So fish school primarily for protection. They want to make themselves look as big as possible from a distance. If you can swim faster than your neighbor, always a good thing when there's a predator around. But they also school for energy conservation. So they're going to swim directly behind each other, draft off each other's currents. It actually saves them quite a bit of energy out here. We got a ton of these little llama here on the starboard side. Port side, you guys have a few down there. So they're roughly 2 types of schooling fish here on our dive site. We have these llama, and then we also have the ta'ape, the blue line snapper.
Is that cucumber?
And right over there on the port side, there you go. Right on cue. We got the blue line snapper down there. That little taco-shaped fish, the blue lines going down their side, solid yellow tail. Now these guys actually have a really interesting story. They're an introduced species, so they're not originally from here. So right around the same time we became a state, we had a really big population boom. So we had to start bringing in fish from other places to help supplement the food source out here. Unfortunately, though, we didn't do our research very well before we brought this fish over. We brought them over from Tahiti. Now, over in Tahiti, they grow pretty big. They're about 5 or 6 pounds, great for eating. But Tahiti is a tropical climate, where here in Hawaii we are subtropical. So our water temperature is about 15 degrees cooler. And after 1 generation of being in that cooler water temperature, it actually stunted their growth so much so that here they don't even get a pound. So not very good for eating. Unfortunately, they are growing in numbers like crazy, and they are now an invasive species. So they're pushing a lot of our endemic meaning only found here in Hawaii, into deeper water. So our natural snapper, those guys have had to move into deeper water to make room for these guys. And we're going to see see a lot of fish here today. There's over 850 species of fish here on our dive site, so I'm not going to be able to point out every single one to you guys, but if you have questions, definitely let me know. Shout it out. More than happy to answer any of you guys' questions. Over here on the starboard side, there's a big moo fish. That's the Grandite Emperor, kind of right on the edge of that sand patch there. Big silver fish, what we call moo or Grandite Emperor. And those guys have molar-like teeth. It's kind of creepy, actually. They eat primarily lobster, crab, and urchin. So apparently they are very delicious. They're nearly impossible to catch. They have such good eyesight. They can see a line or a net in the water, so very difficult to catch. But that is the moo.
Oh, that's a fish.
Okay.
Now another fish to keep your eye out for, we got all these little yellow tang hanging out right near the coral reef. Solid yellow fish, a little bit smaller than the palm of your hand. These yellow tang are what Kona is most known for. So back in the day, we were nicknamed the Golden Coast. Reason being because we had so many yellow tang in our waters out here. When the waves would crash up on shore, huge schools would get caught up in the crest of the wave. But unfortunately, these guys are the most popular saltwater aquarium fish. And about 20 years ago, the aquarium trade started coming here to Hawaii, taking those little guys off of our reefs, to the point where they almost decimated the entire yellow tang population. But throughout the years, we've gotten a lot better about taking care of our fish out here. So we're diving on a 25-acre marine protected area. So it's illegal to take any fish off of this reef for any commercial reasons, commercial fishing, fish collection. They take it pretty seriously too. It's about a $50,000 fine per fish if you're caught. So we are starting to see their numbers increase, but unfortunately very slow process. A huge school goes to operate there on the starboard side.
Should have bought one.
Now we've seen quite a few of these little silver dollar damsels, the little white fish with the black rim around the outside. They look like open up Oreo cookies. There's a couple over there on the port side. Those are the silver dollar damsel, or otherwise known as the Hawaiian dactylis. Super cute little fish. Those guys are actually super aggressive. They're known to attack scuba divers and snorkelers. It doesn't actually hurt, ends up tickling more than anything else. But they do let out a little audible chirp. You can actually hear it underwater. They'll get right in front of your mast, try and chirp you away. It's actually adorable. We call those little guys the chihuahuas of the marine. Super cute but super vicious little fish. So as algae grows, those little guys actually will farm a patch of coral. So they get super protected with those little silver dollar damsels out here. We have quite a few triggerfish in this area as well. Triggerfish known as huma huma. We've seen a couple pink-tailed triggerfish. Huma huma de okole. So you guys know what that means, right? Fish with a beautiful flower on its bum. We've got two ornate butterfly fish over here on the starboard side. That little white fish with the orange stripes going down their sides. About 35 different species of butterfly fish here on our reefs. Most butterfly fish are what we call a pair bonding species. So they actually mate for life. So you can see those guys are paired up. Very loyal little fish. Unfortunately loyal to a fault though. If one of the pair goes missing, the other one stops eating, starts searching for its mate until it either finds its mate or ends up starving to death. So almost like the Romeo and Juliet of the ocean world. Loyal, but loyal to a fault. There is one species of butterfly fish that is not a pair bonding species, and that is the millet seed. There's actually one little millet seed over there on the starboard side. The yellow fish with the little black spot right in front of its tail. Usually those guys are in big groups, those millet seed butterflies. That little black spot is what we call a false eye. That's that fish's defense mechanism. So from a distance, a predator will think that's its eyeball. Assume when it darts after him, he's going to go one way, that little fish swims off the other direction to use his safety. So great little defense mechanism for those little millet seeds. There you go, port side. Two of those little ornate butterflies swimming right over the coral. So we're getting great views of coral. So we'll talk about coral here for just a minute. So coral is a living species. It is a living organism. The part of the coral that we're actually looking at is the exoskeleton. And it's made up of a calcium carbonate material, kind of like chalk or tongues. Inside of that, there are millions of tiny little organisms called the coral polyp. Those little guys look a bit like little upside upside down jellyfish. They have particles of algae that live inside their body. We call that little particle of algae a zooxanthellae. So that needs sunlight to grow. It is a plant material. The coral needs sunlight, so as it photosynthesizes, it actually produces glucose in its body, a type of sugar. That's what gives coral polyps energy. But coral polyps also feed off of plankton. So at night, they come to the surface of the coral, stick their little jellyfish-like tentacles out, and pick up all this plankton. So all these little white flakes you see floating by your viewports there, that is plankton. Basically, anything that cannot swim against the current is considered plankton. So, little organisms, what we call zooplankton, tiny particles of plant life, which is phytoplankton, fish eggs, eggshell casings, anything that can't swim against the current. So, all this plankton that we're seeing out here feeds the coral reef itself. A lot of these little fish that we're looking at feed off plankton. Our bigger animals, manta rays and whale sharks, feed exclusively on plankton. Now that phytoplankton, the little plant material in that also gives us 50% of the oxygen that we breathe back up on the surface. So very, very vital element in our oceans out here. Ooh, portside, you guys have two big bluefin trevally. Just cruised out underneath the sub. These big silver fish with the neon blue edges. One of the apex predators out here, and they're coming right at us. So those guys are going to now swim directly underneath us. So we've been out here for 30 years, so a lot of these fish actually know this submarine. So they probably won't pop out the other side, unfortunately, because they're going to swim right underneath us and use us as camouflage. So they know this submarine, they know they can use us to their advantage. So they'll cruise underneath us. When we cruise through a school of fish, keep your eye out, they might dart out from time to time. That is the bluefin trevally. There was a big brown fish on both sides of the submarine, the peacock grouper. Big brown fish with beige stripes in the back. Another predatory fish out here. Now those guys, unfortunately, are another invasive species. We don't have too many invasive species here on our reef, except for the ta'ape and those peacock grouper, what we call roy. So the peacock grouper were actually brought over to take care of that ta'ape population. So they were their number one predator over in Tahiti. So they decided once they saw those ta'ape were growing in numbers like crazy, they bring their number one predator over to take care of those ta'ape. But once they brought them over here, they realized they had a ton of other fish to eat, and they stopped eating ta'ape. So unfortunately now those guys' numbers are growing like crazy. So they are another invasive species out here. So there are three different species of coral, well, three main types that we see out here on this dive site. We have finger coral. It's the coral that pokes up and looks like little fingers. Mound coral, which looks like the mounds of lumpy mashed potatoes. And plate coral, looks like stacked up soggy paper plates. Ooh, beautiful raccoon butterflies there on the starboard side. Little raccoon butterfly, another one of those pair bonding species. You can see they're mated up there. So those are the three main types of coral we have. We have other types like antler coral, rice coral, cauliflower coral, green wire coral. But the three main types are that finger, mound, and plate coral. Here comes more of those bluefin trevally. There you go, portside, yeah. So those guys, again, they're going to cruise right underneath us. Keep your eye out. A lot of times when we cruise through schools of fish, you'll see them dart out. There's some of those peacock grouper there portside, those big brown fish. They look brown, they're actually bright purple. So if you ever just swim up to the surface, very, very colorful fish, those peacock grouper, the roy.
School fish over there.
Look, it's another cucumber.
These little fish over here on the starboard side, those little tiny brown fish, they're called the chocolate dip damsels. Kind of like the silver dollar damsel, pretty aggressive, definitely not as aggressive as the silver dollar damsel, but still they'll farm little patches of coral, so they take care of the algae on that patch of coral. Beautiful views, holy cow, great views of this coral here. Now you might see some white patches throughout our coral, so some of our coral is unfortunately bleached at the moment. We're in what we call a bleaching event. So what happens when coral bleaches, our water temperatures raise higher than they're supposed to be. So our average water temperature out here is about 75 degrees. We are currently at about 87. So our water temperature is unseasonably hot right now. So this coral is being affected by that hot temperature. What happens when it bleaches is that little polyp expels that piece of algae. That's what gives coral color. So it expels that algae. Hopefully when the water temperatures decrease, it'll bring that algae back into its body.
That was
The
a
coral
giant
can
fish.
recover from bleaching events. In fact, there you go, Lua. There you go, 2 of them. Giant trevally. There you go. Now those guys are the apex predators out here. The giant trevally. Those guys can get up to
I caught the one that was on
those
the
guys out there are
ship.
probably only about 40 pounds. Very small giant trevally. But oftentimes we'll see those guys picking up sharks. They are the #1 predator out in this area.
One came over and swam out. Like, holy shit.
There you go, port side. Some good views of those little millipedes, a couple of raccoon butterfly fish. Ooh, actually, there's a ton of raccoon out there.
This is pretty cool though. You guys haven't come across any sharks before, have you? Haven't come across any sharks before.
Alright guys, so looks like we're pulling up on our first shipwreck here.
Oh, wait.
So we're going to put it on the port side first, but starboard side, do not worry. As soon as we do a port side pass, we're going to spin around. We're then going to do a starboard side pass. We have to decide what side of the submarine to show first because we have a pretty strong current system here. We never want to get pushed onto a shipwreck. We always want to get pushed away from a shipwreck. So we're going to put it on the port side first, but don't worry, starboard side. I promise we'll spin around. There's more of those bluefin trevally. It's fun, a lavender tang here. But here we go. So this is the Predator. This is a World War II Higgins style landing craft. 2 Moorish idols hanging out right at the top. They look like angelfish. They're Moorish idols. They're little tiny boxfish right over the engine room there. The boxfish are my favorite.
That's a little too close.
This is a World War II Higgins style landing craft. This is modeled after the state second vessel that was used to storm the beaches in Normandy. This was never used in military service though. A guy bought this off an army surplus. He brought it out here to Kona and his plan was to do cage shark diving tours with this boat. He had this big crane arm installed. That was what he was going to use to raise and lower the shark cage in and out of the water. But there aren't actually very many sharks in this area. So he was going to have to artificially introduce sharks here by chumming the water, putting dead fish, blood and guts into the water. Now we're still pretty close to shore. And there's a lot of different recreational activities that go on here in the mix. As you guys probably know, a lot of paddleboarding, a lot of swimming, Ironman World Championships, it's held basically directly above us. So bringing sharks into this area was a terrible idea, actually. So this guy never actually got his business off the ground. This boat ended up just sitting out here for 2 years unused out the bay. The guy didn't take very good care of it. In 1996, we had a really big tropical storm roll through. We had a ton of rain. The bilge pump, the guy didn't realize the bilge pump no longer works. That's what pumps the water out of the bottom of the boat. The being that this thing is shaped basically like a bathtub, it started filling up. Eventually filled all the way up, the waves came crashing in.
I got it.
And she sunk to the ocean floor. It did take her about 4.5 hours to fully sink, which surprisingly is quite slow for a vessel this size. Usually when boats this size start taking on water, they go pretty quickly. But this was pretty slow, so that bilge pump had to have been working a little bit. But it makes a great example of an artificial reef. So coral needs something hard and solid to attach itself to. So things like shipwrecks are actually great. In fact, a lot of places around the world, they'll intentionally sink boats, airplanes, statues, submarines, even to help promote that healthy coral growth. We got lucky. We were
There's a piece of metal over there.
A free artificial reef. There's the blue picture volley. There you go. Alright guys, so we are spinning around here. We're going to make sure starboard side gets a good view of the Predator here. Now we have quite a few urchin on the side of this vessel. We have the long spined urchin, the fauna. big ball of spikes sticking off the side.
I don't like that
But we
this is
also
so
have collector
open.
urchins on this boat. So the collector urchin is very important to the coral reef. Collector urchins eat algae, and they can actually eat an incredible amount of algae for their size. So as our water temperatures are raising, more algae is growing on the coral. If too much algae grows on coral, it can actually suffocate and kill the coral. In fact, over on Oahu, they're having really big problems with high algae growth areas. So they're actually farming these little collector urchins, putting them into those high algae growth areas. Those little guys are actually saving entire reef systems. So pretty cool little organisms, those little collector urchins. They look like little pink cushions stuck to the side.
I've been deeper than this.
And we got these little waha nui here. They look like super grumpy fish, super frowny. The waha nui, the big mouth snapper.
Oh, shit, that's right there.
That's the one that comes. Oh, just took a shit.
Alright, there you go, getting great views. Super close views.
I can't even see it.
In fact, there's a collector urchin right off the cleat, right behind the cleat there. Great little view of those little collector urchins.
Look, the fish.
Oh, there it is. Hello, ship. Those fish are very grumpy. Oh, hello.
Great views of that fauna there.
Oh, shit. Damn, that's a beautiful ship.
Wait, what did she say about this? What is this?
This is a World War II Higgins boat, used for as landing crafts.
On the other side there's a big parrotfish over there.
Beautiful ship.
Some more of these Moorish idol here. They look like angelfish.
Oh, so
Beautiful fish, black, yellow, and white stripes. That long top dorsal fin, that is a Moorish idol.
It's still nice.
So that parrotfish, very important here in Hawaii. So those guys actually eat coral. What they're doing is they're scraping the edge of the coral for the algae, but inevitably they get some of that coral into their stomach. They actually have special plates in the back of their throat, help grind up that calcium carbonate exoskeleton. So they digest the algae, so that exoskeleton comes out the back end of that fish, and about 80% of the white sand here in Hawaii is actually parrotfish poop. So, if you guys go to the beach tomorrow, most of that is from the parrotfish. They can produce up to a pound of sand a day. It's pretty incredible. So this debris that we see over here, that was attached to the vessel at one time. A number of years ago, we had a big swell come through. It actually knocked that off. That big cylinder there, that was part of the hydraulic system that ran that crane on.
I wonder if it's pretty all the way in the basement.
We're going to cruise over the coral for just a little bit longer before we head offshore. So we're going to try and get to 100 feet. Got one shipwreck out there that sits at about 107 feet. So we're going to cruise over the coral before we head into deeper water here.
That's one of my favorite things to see, like the old classic ships. I love the fact that we got to see that one. I'm kind of a military.
So we were talking about coral bleaching before we came up on that shipwreck. So you can see some of our coral is bleaching. NOAA is predicting, though, that our water temperatures are going to decrease, and we should be all right. So in 2015, we had a very major bleaching event out here. In fact, all of this coral was stark white for about 3 months. Luckily, like I said, coral can recover from bleaching events, so luckily most of this coral did recover from that bleaching event. The only coral that didn't come back was the cauliflower coral. But most of the others did, so hopefully we're going to be alright with this bleaching event. Only a few spots here and there have been bleached out, but they can recover, so we're hoping our water temperatures will decrease in time for that to happen here.
Oh, this is so beautiful.
There's a bunch of those millet seed butterfly fish kind of look up and out. Quite a few
Oh, hello,
lavender
Bubble.
tanks
Loading up.
as well. Lavender tanks look like little watermelon seeds swimming by.
And once it turns white, is it right off and kind of like float out?
So once it turns red, it's not necessarily. There's still a certain amount of time. Within about 3 months or so, you can actually have some of those. The zooxanthellae actually come back and go back into the coral, and the coral will survive. So in the 2014 bleaching event, about half of the corals that bleached survived. So yeah, so that was good. So half of everything that we
for those long nose. There you go, some more bluefin trevally. The long-nosed butterfly fish, we've seen quite a few throughout our dive. They're usually hanging out right near the coral. Now, most of the time, the long-nosed butterfly are yellow in the back, little black mask over their eye, and a really long white beak. But here in Kona, and only here in Kona, these little guys do something pretty amazing. Every once in a while, one will turn solid black in color. It doesn't happen in Hilo, Maui, Oahu, anywhere else in the world. So it's a pretty cool phenomenon that's happening up and down the Kona coast here. We don't know why it's happening. In fact, 2 years ago, we had some scientists come over from Oahu to study why those little guys are turning black. They couldn't actually figure it out. So they decided to take a couple of the black ones back to Oahu and study them at the university there. But by the time they got back to Oahu, the fish had turned back to yellow. So we have absolutely no idea why it happened. It's a pretty cool phenomenon. There are a few theories that because we have so much lava here, that lava rock is a black rock. Maybe they're trying to blend in. It could be for mating activities. We're not really sure, but it's a pretty cool thing. So keep your eye out. It is a butterfly fish, so they are a pair bonding species. So if you see the yellow one, keep your eye out. Its mate might actually be that rare black longnose. Tons of these lavender tang out here on the starboard side.
Hello.
So there's a lot of these fish actually migrate throughout the reef throughout the day. So this morning, these guys weren't here. They were actually offshore a little bit. So throughout the day, we get more of the lavender tang cruising in here. We don't see as many parrotfish on the afternoon dive. So these fish migrate throughout the day. Some great views of what this coral is attached to. So most of it is attached to an ancient
that's one dead eel.
Our volcano
Or dying one.
alive. So the deeper we go, the less coral we're actually going to see. So that lava flow only went so far. Coral cannot attach itself to sand. It has to have something hard and solid to attach itself to. So we get deeper and deeper here. We lose a lot of this coral. Ooh, a huge school of those moo. That's a big school. So that's the moo, the grand-eyed emperor.
Oh, Jesus Christ, that's a big fish.
Those are the guys that have the molar-like teeth. Now they're usually hanging out in schools like that, but every once in a while we'll see one moo fish. In fact, at our last shipwreck, there's one moo that is there every single day, every single time. He often comes right up to the viewports. He is my favorite fish. I'll point him out when we get out there. But it's pretty unusual for just one to hang out solo. They usually hang out in these schools, so it's pretty cool to have that one little guy that hangs out offshore.
That was this one, you know?
Yeah, I think that was the one.
Yeah, it was. Pretty bad. 10 bucks.
Got a ton of these yellowfin surgeonfish over there on the port side.
Tiger.
These great fish with yellow fins on the side. Yes, there are some tires out there. Unfortunately, we do see quite a few tires out here on this dive site. So back in the day, Kona was known as a cattle town. They used to bring the cows down from the ranches. They'd swim them out to barges. So those barges couldn't go all the way to shore. So they'd actually have to swim the cattle out to those barges. Those barges actually, oftentimes, oh, there's a big anchor. There you go, port side. So the barges actually use tires as cheap fenders or bumpers. So that's why we see a lot of tires out here. That big anchor there on the port side, that's actually our anchor. So our boat is attached to that. That's down here permanently. We have another line that goes inshore. You can see that chain runs inshore. There's another heavy object out there. It's actually an old axle a little bit further inshore, and that's what our boat is currently attached to. But you can see we come into this area to put that anchor down here. That way we don't drop it on coral. Definitely anchor drops do a lot of damage to the coral.
There's a lot of bricks
We
down
lost
here.
a lot of our fish, but we still have quite a lot of life out in this sandy area. Unfortunately, though, a lot of the life out here relies on camouflage for protection. They don't have that reef to hide out in, so they basically have to hide out in plain sight. But we are in what we call taco country. Taco was and the octopus. Now, unfortunately, those guys are the masters of camouflage. They can change the color and the texture of their skin. It's quite often our pilot will see one or two throughout our dive. But by the time it's gotten back to our viewports, we just think we're looking at a rock. But you see a rock looking back at you or get up and swim away, that's probably a taco. You keep your eye out for them. Also, these little cones sticking out of the sand there, that is an organism. That's the Hawaiian sea sponge. Very simple-celled organism, those little Hawaiian sea sponge. We're getting into our seagrass beds out here, and I say grass, this is called Halimeda seagrass. It's actually a type of algae. A pretty cool plant though, it's a calcareous producing plant. So if you look really closely, you might see a little white flake at the top of that plant. That is a piece of calcium. It'll get bigger and bigger, eventually get carried off by the current. And about 5% of the white sand here in Hawaii is from this Halimeda seagrass. So we get 5% from the Halimeda, 80% from the parrotfish, and then the rest is mostly erosion. So pretty cool plants.
Oh, starfish.
Making our
Hello.
beaches out here. And 99 feet, guys, almost at 100 there.
That scares me.
Oh Jesus Christ! Hello.
He's looking at you.
Scare us, man.
Hi.
Alright guys, it looks like we found our last shipwreck out here. Now we'll see these yellowfin surgeonfish, these big gray fish, they're going to come right up to your viewports. And that's because we're growing their favorite snack on the side of our submarine. The park sits out back at the harbor. It's a brackish water harbor, so the algae that's growing on our submarine doesn't grow naturally out here, and these guys love it. So you'll see them come right up to the viewports and munch on that algae. So it looks like we're going to do port side first, just like last time, but again, we're going to spin around, make sure both sides get good views of the lady. So this used to be a really high-end sailboat. Her name was the Angia, very beautiful sailboat. There's that moo I was talking about. He's here every dive. He's there on the port side. He'll hang out right by your viewports. That is my favorite fish. I named him Marvin. He's a cool little guy. So he's here every single dive.
Holy crap.
So this vessel actually sunk due to fire. There's quite a story that goes along with it. Basically, the lady on board thought she had termites, so she decided to smoke them out, which is a terrible idea. So she lit one of her safety flares thinking, a whole lot of smoke, not a lot of fire. That's going to get rid of those termites. Inevitably, she ended up catching her boat on fire. The fire spread to the galley where it ignited her propane tank. So the story goes, she did survive. She was able to jump overboard in time, swam to one of the local dinner cruises here, the Tamarang. She climbed aboard the Tamarang. They had gone home for the evening, so she took all her soaking wet clothes off to let them dry. Happened to find an open liquor cabinet, decided to keep herself warm till help arrived the next morning. The next morning when the crew of the Tamarang got to work, they found her basically passed out on the deck with nothing but a smile. So ever since then, this boat has been known locally as the Naked Lady. Pretty popular scuba diving spot here in Kona. So if you go to any of the dive shops, ask them for a map to the Naked Lady, they'll take you right here. Tons of these yellowfin. So these guys can hear us coming from a ways away. They know their favorite snacks on the way. We're like the ice cream truck down here for them. Alright guys, we are spinning around here. We're going to make sure starboard side gets good views of the lady here. There's a little Alua there port side, very little Alua. This guy's probably only about 10 pounds. Like I said, they can get up to 150 pounds. They actually eat birds off of the surface. Pretty incredible fish.
scared.
Alright,
Jesus.
so it looks like you're gonna get a view of Marvin as well. My favorite fish out here. Big move fish. Now these guys have such good eyesight, so he'll look right through your viewport, look right at you. He can see you looking at him. There he is, kind of down in the sandy area there.
Hello.
Oh, there's two of them today. Marvin has kind of a yellow scar right above his eye. There he is. He's coming right at you. Tons of these yellowfin out here today.
Oh, hello.
I've never seen this many.
Going up to
Got a big parrotfish under the stern there. Bright colored parrotfish. Huge pufferfish. Holy cow. Right inside that vessel. That is the biggest pufferfish I have ever seen. Holy cow. That guy is massive.
Hello, there, fishies.
That guy's huge.
That's a pufferfish?
Maybe a little abnormally large. That guy's massive.
Oh, hello.
That's pretty cool.
That's funny. That's
We
fishy.
call him Puff Daddy. Tons of these little billet seeds all over.
Hello there, puffer.
Pale-tail
That's what he
unicorn
was
fish
just
out there.
missing.
Little pale-tail unicorns have that little horn coming off their forehead.
Shit.
Unicorns really doing this good.
Hello.
Oh, yeah.